Well, welcome everybody on this cold December day. I hope it's a little bit warmer where you are than where I am. But we're very thankful to have you here for the Sage Construction Management webinar. This is going to be presented by Misty Palick, who is one of our lead Sage Intech construction consultants. She's a industry veteran, and if you've been to a tug meeting, you might have seen her there. She's also published a lot of articles and has been doing a lot of webinars for our team, which we're very thankful for. Today, I just wanted to go through some brief housekeeping before I turn it over to Misty. We are offering CPE credit for participation in this webinar. But in order to qualify for CP credit, you must answer all poll questions. So there will be 4 poll questions that come up during the course of the webinar. Please answer them all. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A function and don't be shy. We would love to have an opportunity to address anything that is top of mind for you. So please seek that out in the little control panel and use that if you have a question. Following the webinar, you will get at least 1, if not 2 emails. The first one will be from me, and it will contain a copy of the slides, a recording of this webinar, and a link to a short survey. And we ask that you please allow 48 hours to receive that. The second email won't come from me, it will come from our sister company. And if you are eligible for CPE, your certificate will be sent out by them. And they ask that you allow 2 weeks to receive that certificate. If 2 weeks have passed and you haven't received it, please contact me and I'll be happy to chase that down for you. So without further ado, Misty, the presentation is all yours.
Wonderful. And thanks for that warm introduction, Dawn, as always. And as Dawn mentioned, I've been around in the construction industry for a very long time. And today here is outlined our learning objectives, and we're going to explore Sage Construction Management, or, sometimes we call it SCM. I'll try to say the long name today so you know what I'm talking about. But we're talking about how it can enhance your communication between your field and office teams, ultimately boosting your company's efficiency. So first off, we are going to do a poll question. So there are 4 poll questions throughout this presentation. And like Don said, you have to answer all the poll questions to receive your CPE credits. So I'm going to let Don pull up that first poll question. And I'm going to talk us through this here. So how does the field communicate with accounting in your company? So is it via email, paper all the way, via MS Teams or instant messaging, another product like Procore or Red Team, or how about all of the above? Now, I will be very surprised if everyone on this call doesn't choose option E, all of the above, because even though we're in the 21st century and paper is becoming less common, some of these methods are obviously still in use. So I'll give you guys just a second to go ahead and vote on that. It'll be interesting to see what people have to say. I do all of the above, absolutely. Everything on there is how we communicate internally, except for like Procore, for example. But we definitely, have instant messaging and even paper. Still exists.
All right, I'm still getting some late responses. I will be closing down the poll in 5 seconds. So please make your selection.
Sure.
And I'm ending the poll. Misty, it's pretty much a dead heat. 50-50 between via email and all of the above.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. So now that we know the different ways that your field is communicating with you, let's talk about what Sage Construction Management is. And listen, I'm not here to read you slides today because I think you can all read, but as you can see here, Sage Construction Management is a comprehensive project management cloud-based platform that provides centralized data, enhancing the communication, obviously, between your field and office, and it keeps financial integrity by only having one source of truth. So no more duplicative data entry through the integration with Sage Construction Management in a product like Sage Intacct Construction. So Sage Construction Management, for a little history, was previously called CoreCon, and Sage bought them in 2023. They updated their user interface, and now we have a complete project management platform that fully integrates with Sage Intacct Construction. And CoreCon has been around for about 25 years, so it is not new to the industry. It's a very well-developed product, has all the bugs worked out. And now the things that Sage is adding is just, better user interface, some new technology that wasn't there before. So let's see what Sage Construction Management is good for in our industry. Okay, so as you can see on our list, Sage Construction Management could be used in a variety of sectors within the industry, from general contractors to specialty subcontractors to developers, engineers, architects, and so on. So anyone that really needs better project management, operational software could benefit from Sage Construction Management. I've even been seeing some interesting companies using it, more on the design build side, who, they need good project management, but not in the same way that, say, a general contractor does. So the one thing you won't see on this list is utility and heavy construction. And the reason is that Sage Construction Management is really not a good fit for those larger clients that do complex billings. However, those companies typically have their own products that are specific to their industry that they use. So they're not left out, but Sage Construction Management is a really good fit for these industry sectors. Okay, it's time for our second poll question already. I promise not to PowerPoint you to death today either. So Don, if you'll pop up that poll question. Which of the following best describes how Sage Construction Management supports field and office communication? So there's no wrong answer here, but it would be interesting to get everybody's feedback as to, is it by relying on physical paperwork transfers of the field guys giving you their timesheets, and then that information is getting entered into Sage Construction Management? Is it through real-time updates, digital work orders, mobile functionalities? So they're doing those time cards on their phone, and then they're automatically coming into Sage Construction Management. Are they limiting communication to weekly emails that maybe you only get this information once a week, or by scheduling daily in-person check-ins with all team members? So there's no wrong answer here, but what we're trying to gauge is, how involved is your communication with the field to the accounting backbone of the organization? So I'll give you guys just a second to think about this answer here. And you'll notice I'm wearing my green sweater today. Dawn and I were talking about the holidays coming up, and I should have worn an ugly sweater today, but I didn't. But you get a green sweater.
All right, I think we have all of the answers that we're going to get. And the majority of people picked the second option through real-time updates, digital work orders, and mobile functionality. And then we had 10% and 10% with by relying on physical paperwork and transfers, and again 10% on by scheduling daily in-person check-ins with all the team members.
Which I recommend, the last one, I really recommend that, with your team. It's really good to keep that communication gate open, right? Okay, so now that we know a little bit more about Sage Construction Management and how it supports field and office communication, I'm going to go over the integration mapping so you can visually see all the things that Sage Construction Management can do. And I promise we're going to get into the solution presentation here in a few minutes, and we'll go through, all the things that are inside of Sage Construction Management, so you'll get to see it alive. So as you can see here, everything is managed in Sage Construction Management by department, except for paying vendors, receiving payments from customers, and handling payroll. So you can see some things down here as Sage Intact System. And we're going to get to that point here in just a minute. But these tasks are organized by department, typically found in construction companies: estimating, project management, and field staff, and then finally accounting department, which, is the backbone of the other two. So you can see that, while you may not need every feature inside of Sage Construction Management, say you just need it for accounts payable or time cards, you get the whole package when you purchase a product like Sage Construction Manager, and then it's just tailored to suit your company's specific needs. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I have separate modules and I only need this piece of the puzzle or that piece of the puzzle. It's also very reasonably priced, especially when you compare it to major competitors like Procore. It is a similar product to Procore, but the pricing is much more favorable, I think, in my opinion. But it does a lot of the same functionality. But you have to realize that you're getting the whole package for the price that you purchase it for. It's not just one piece and then you get another piece for another price and all of that. So also, Sage Construction Management can be a standalone product, so you don't have to integrate it with your accounting software if that's not what you choose to do. And it does integrate with several other ERP systems like QuickBooks, Sage 50, Sage 100 Contractor, Sage 300 CRE. So it does integrate with several other ERP systems, but I'm going to talk about how it integrates with Sage Intact Construction because that's been my knowledge for the past, I don't know, 6 years or so. So we're going to go through the integration maps and just kind of talk through that real quick here. So
So, Misty, we have a question.
sure, go
And
ahead.
yeah, Chris would like to know if Sage Construction Management can integrate with Procore.
Well, it's an interesting question because I actually have a client that has both. And they use Procore for the accounts payable because they like it. It's very easy to use. And not that Sage Construction Management isn't, it's just that they've always used Procore. And so their people are very used to it, but they don't want to run their contracts through there because that's the pricing model of Procore, is they actually get charged based on the revenue that they run through Procore. And so yes, I mean, you could have both, absolutely, but they too do not talk to each other because they're very similar products, and you're going to see that today. It's real project management. It does all the same functionality as Procore would do. But I do have companies that have both because Sage Construction Management is a lot less expensive and does contracts very well. And so some of these companies, they might have Sage Intact, for example, and Procore doesn't all the way integrate into Intact as of yet, but Sage Construction Management does. So we have project contracts turned on and we have AIA billings turned on, and Procore is still working through that process and the integration. So great question. So you could have both. I don't know why you would. I guess is the answer to the real answer to the question is I would choose one over the other so that there's no confusion. So you can see here on my integration overview that there are a few bidirectional touch points between Sage Intact Construction and Sage Construction Management. But most of the work originates from Sage Construction Management. So the primary due to cost considerations, this is primarily due to cost considerations. If you want to pay for your project managers to be in both your project management software and your accounting software, it can get really expensive. So typically companies prefer not to do this. Since project management can be very complex and messy and requires approval processes, it's more efficient to keep the project managers in the project management software like Sage Construction Management rather than in the accounting software. So you can see that customers, vendors, employees are the only bidirectional touch points. So no matter where you created those in Sage Intact or Sage Construction Management, they will sync up. So they will always be current with each other. Everything else originates from Sage Construction Management and then gets pushed to Sage Intact Construction. So you can see, like all our awarded projects and approved client contracts, and this is the part that Procore hasn't figured out yet, but Sage Construction Management has it. So all of these things get created over in Sage Construction Management. They get pushed to Sage Intact. Change management is the same way on the prime side, on the owner side. So let's take a look at the second page real quick here. So you can see prime invoices are generated in Sage construction management, and so is all your procurement. So all your purchase orders, bills, subcontracts, subcontract change orders, sub invoices, they're all coming into Sage Construction Management, getting routed for approval and getting taken care of over on that side. And then anything that's approved, only approved, actually gets pushed to Sage Intacct. And then you'll see down here on the bottom, to mention it again, that you can't pay bills out of Sage Construction Management, like actual cut checks or prepare a notcha file for ACH. And you can't receive money from a customer through Sage Construction Management. That's all done in Intacct and then pushed back to Sage Construction Management. So if you were looking at an AP bill and it had been paid, you would be able to see that paid transaction information, but it came from Sage Intacct. So it might say check number, this date, for this amount. You probably wouldn't be able to see a copy of the check or anything, but you would be able to see that it had been paid. And that's because it's coming from Sage Intacct Construction to Construction Management, that those data points touch. And the same with customer payments, so if you've sent out an invoice on the AR side to a customer through Sage Construction Management and it got paid, you would mark it as paid in Intacct, and then it would get pushed to Sage Construction Management. And then there's always those ERP job costs. And what that means is it might be a credit card transaction or labor distribution or some kind of other costs that need to get allocated to the jobs, but it's not going to be done in Sage Construction Management because it's an accounting function. So that accounting function happens in the accounting software like Sage Intacct, and then gets pushed to Sage Construction Management. Now this integration is, wide open as far as I can see. So if you were looking at an integration map for Sage 100 Contractor or Sage 300 CRE, it would be radically different. It is very limited as to what is flowing back and forth. And so my opinion of that is that Intacct is the future, and Sage gets it too. So we're going to the cloud, and as you're going to see in the presentation, that Sage Construction Management is cloud-based software. So you log into a website to access it. Any questions so far out there, Dawn?
No,
Okay.
no.
Awesome. I was going to say, you can go ahead and throw up the third poll question if you don't mind, please. So this is a big one in our industry anyways. So do you ever pay vendors accidentally with expired certificates of insurance? Sometimes, all the time, and I really hope the answer is never. I really do. Vendor compliance is crucial for many companies in our industry. So it's essential to avoid paying a vendor with an expired certificate of insurance or missing pre-qualification documents or even lien waivers from previous payments. These are all vendor compliance issues, and during the solution presentation, you'll see that Sage Construction Management includes this vendor compliance feature that syncs with Sage Intacct. So as you're paying your vendors out of Sage Intacct, you won't accidentally pay a vendor that has an expired certificate of insurance. Now, the data is only good as coming in, right? So if you didn't update it in Sage Construction Management, obviously the system's not going to catch it. I always say garbage in, garbage out.
So what we found is that 60% have never accidentally paid a vendor, and 40% sometimes.
Okay, so nobody all the time.
Yes, that's correct.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. Okay, awesome. So let's pop on over to Sage Construction Management, and I'm gonna pull this up here. And with the power of television here, we're logged into Sage Construction Management, and you'll notice that I'm just using Google Chrome. It is browser agnostic, and it does have a mobile app. So, if you wanted to do a one-on-one presentation with me, then I would be happy to show you that mobile app. But just know that it has a mobile app and it's pretty user-friendly. So when we're logged in here, I'm going to expand this menu for the time being. That always kind of goes back and forth, and I don't want to have it pop up every time. So the home looks kind of boring. It's not where, all the good stuff is, but you can set some alerts, and we have a menu over here, but you could set some alerts that say, hey, I got an RFI due today. I've got an invitation to bid going out today. I've got a, project subcontractor invoice due today. So you could set up these alerts. They are user specific, not global. So whatever alerts you set up are only for you to see. It does have user roles and users, obviously, and the roles get applied to those users so that you can control what people can see in here. Now, there isn't any payroll information in here, so you're not gonna have to, lock down payroll. Whereas if you gave a project manager access to a, accounting software, you have to lock it down pretty tight so they can't see things that they're not supposed to. And it just depends on how you're syncing up, like a labor distribution over on Sage Intacct side, how you're distributing that and locking it down to basically hide the labor underneath the job costs. That's a whole nother conversation. But when you get into Sage Construction Management, you're going to want to build a database of a couple things. So you've got contact management, and these are all your vendors, all your customers, all your employees. So you'll notice that the vendors and the customers are interchangeable. So, you can't really see here, are they a vendor or a customer? It just considers them companies. But there is underneath each one of these, like if we clicked on this, we would be able to tell this is a customer, this is not a vendor. And we could look at, they've got, obviously their billing information. They have general information as to, do they have a government ID? Do they track time within our system? Because they could do that if they wanted to. Are they on a bidders list? Any comments? So this is a real vendor record. We have contacts that we can put in here, and that's important to put in here because you can email right out of the system. Say you want to send a subcontract to this person and have them electronically sign it. Done. You can do that as long as you've added their contact information to the system. Do they have any licenses that need to be tracked? And this you could use in a multitude of ways. It could just be, is it a pre-qualification package? Is it a state license? Whatever kind of license you need to track for this vendor specifically, you could do that. Here's all the insurance information. So this actually flows over to Intacct. I don't think there's another ERP system that Sage Construction Management can integrate with that controls this. Even Procore doesn't have this. So the ability to track all of that in your project management software, it's typically done by the project managers or a project coordinator. So they're the ones in the project management software day in and day out, and keeping track of all of these, making sure that we don't pay somebody that has an expired certificate of insurance. You have classification, so that is important for estimating and bidding. You can link files, so you can add, you'll notice that we have, I don't know how much storage here, quite a bit of storage, but you can always buy more storage if you decide you don't have enough. But you could link your W-9 here, or even a copy of the certificate of insurance if you like. So I like to consider each one of these records as a filing cabinet, and then these are the drawers underneath that filing cabinet. And you'll hear me use that analogy throughout my presentation today. Sent emails. So every time an email gets sent to this vendor, whether it be, oh, your expired certificate of insurance is coming due, you need to submit a new one, or here's an invitation to bid, or your subcontract invoices are due, any kind of correspondence that includes this vendor or company, you would be able to see that audit trail here. It would tell you the date and time it was sent out, who it was from, who it was going to, who was the contact, and was there any copy recipients. So you'd be able to see that audit history on everything that you do throughout Sage Construction Management. And then you always have this audit history down here to say when was it created and who modified it last. So that's on every record as well, which is very helpful. Like if somebody made a change to a vendor record and somebody else came in and said, wow, what happened here? You would be able to identify who did that. So, and you can, limit some permissions, obviously, using the role functionality. Like if you didn't want project managers to be setting up companies, because sometimes they forget to look to see if that company already exists and they'll add a duplicate. So, you maybe want to have a little governance on setting up new vendors. So you can control that through the roles. So you're going to set up a contact management database, broke out by companies and then active employees. Now, these employees are in here for a multitude of reasons. First of all, resource management. So you can schedule these employees against jobs. So then you could run some schedules on, overall the projects to go, who has capacity to take on more work. And another reason is they can do time and expenses in here. They can also be aligned with a piece of equipment so that you know who is driving that truck and what is their cost rate for idle and all of that information. So equipment is often treated like an employee. So, you can put time against it. It has cost rates, it has billing rates, it has idle rates. So these employees are in here for a multitude of reasons, and they're used in a multitude of ways that you're going to see today. So coming back to contact management, you can see you've got some checkups here, changes in the past 7 days, just so you can kind of, quickly look at your company and go, what happened here? Then the second thing is the cost database. And so this is kind of broke up into a few areas. We have equipment items, labor items, work items, and equipment items are obviously equipment. And, this could be broad. It could be, we've got grouting equipment to a drill rig or a crane or a truck, however you want to set up those pieces of equipment. But each piece of equipment, like I said, has attributes assigned to it. Now, this doesn't flow over to Intech. This is only in Sage Construction Management, but you can see your base rate, burden rate, cost rate, just like you would with an employee. Even a proposal rate, you could use it in estimating. Do you want to do time cards against it? So each piece of equipment has attributes that you can use against it or use with it. And then back to our cost database, you'll have labor items, which would be, like your general labor peoples, like your boilermakers, your bricklayers, your carpenters, all of that is tracked in here. Now, again, this has nothing to do with payroll, so I don't want you to worry about that. It only relates to payroll as it could import into Intact, sync up with Intact's time cards, which would make the job cost allocation that you need to do on that side that much easier. So the mobile app that I mentioned before has the ability to punch in and punch out, or you can do crew time cards or however you need to do time cards. And then the work items are actual items. Now, this doesn't touch inventory. This isn't inventory, but these are items that you could use against a time card, or if you wanted to use it against an estimate to say, yeah, I have 700 switch boxes, for example. It's going to have a cost rate, and you can do bulk updates to this cost table if you want to, like say once a year, your vendors come back and say, here's our new price list for the year. You could do that. But again, this has nothing to do with inventory. It's not going to check parts and pieces out of inventory. It's just for estimating and projecting costs. Okay, now to the real star of the show is actually has to do with leads. And so when a construction company is bidding on jobs, you can see here we have 5 active leads and 7 inactive leads. There are things that should be kept track of to know, how many bids we have out right now. And if all these bids come to fruition and then we get awarded these bids, are we going to have the resources to do the work? So that's something you should always consider as a company, how are you looking at that information now? And then you could start to see trends building here. So if a lead, if we looked at lead analytics, we'll just pop this up real quick, and we said all leads, and so I have analytics by project manager. So if you wanted to kind of see, okay, we've got 2 estimators, Jeffrey Wall and nobody, I guess, and we wanted to see, who was winning the most work. Meaning who's doing the best estimating. Maybe there's an indicator there that we need to watch out for to go, okay, something's happening with Jeffrey. He's not getting any of these jobs awarded. So maybe he needs help, or maybe there's something else going on. But you'd be able to see how many by the bid contact were awarded, submitted, which ones you're bidding, which ones you're just reviewing plans on, and then a grand total. So these analytics for the lead generation is really helpful. So you could start to understand as a company, I'm going to go back to all leads here. You could start to understand as a company, how you're doing on your bidding process. What is happening over there? And then we do have an upcoming leads calendar, if maybe you're bidding on federal funded projects and you have to, align the bids to be submitted on a certain day because, preparing a proposal and estimating, and actually my career started in estimating for a bridge contractor, and I miss those days. I really loved estimating. It's very close to my heart, and I'm very excited about the estimating in here because it does a really good job of identifying vendors and doing an invitation to bid, which we're going to get to. But if we looked at one of these leads in particular, so I'm going to look at the Fremont warehouse. Now, this is just a lead. It's not a project yet. I can convert it into a project, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. But you'll notice, if you think about the file cabinet analogy again, you'll notice that this is one project at a time. I'm looking at Fremont warehouse. I'm in that leads filing cabinet. So I can see the stage. This would be kind of a general piece of paper I might pull out of the filing cabinet in the top drawer that says Here's the information about the job. Here's the stage that it's in. So you can control these stages, which helps you with your reporting to say, oh yeah, we've got this job. And that helps the analytics decide, did we get this job? Was it awarded? If it wasn't awarded, why was it not awarded? So it just helps you keep track of your leads and what you're bidding on and how it's getting bid and who's bidding on it and all that information. So I have some favorites in my quick links. I also have some general information, which is, like what currency it's in, what stage it's in, what kind of classifications do I want to align with this lead? This is a warehouse department operations, which also flows over to Intact, which is really nice. Bid due date, time, plan information, plan room information, the lead estimate date. So, like when you thought this work might start, when it would end. And then you do have some total lead record stats. I'm not going to click on that because I didn't find it too useful. There's not a lot of information in this demo environment. So when you have a lead like this, I'm going to go back to my lead list and I'm going to click back here to the home page. And you'll notice that our lead menu is, it's not as expansive as when we get to the projects is what I like to say. So these are all the drawers underneath our filing cabinet for this lead. We've got alerts, we've got, lead record stats, lead analytics, which would bring us back to that analytics dashboard we were looking at. We can run reports on it. We can look at all lead files. You can have a lead library in here. So if there are drawings associated with this, we would be able to see them. And if we did card style here, you would be able to see those drawings. So you can attach those drawings. And when I was mentioning earlier that you could buy more space, this is the reason you would do that. Because, hey, we all know that drawings are huge, right? So those kind of max out. They give you quite a bit of space, but you eventually probably need to buy more or archive some stuff and get rid of some stuff. So you can have your drawings in here. We go back to lead home. You can see we can have some specifications in here also, and those are just a PDF, but you could, add any kind of specifications that you had. You can dedicate a team to this. You could say that, all these employees are part of this project. And if it becomes a project, this will be a project team. So you can start to align some of those costs with this lead, and that helps you in estimating. We do have invitation to bid. I'm going to click on this real quick because you can see here, you're going to pick the vendors that you want to invite to bid. And this is all electronic. So as long as you have an email address in here, this would only go to John. But as long as you have an email address assigned to these companies, you would be able to send out an invitation to bid with your linked files, which is pretty cool. So I've set up one to say, this is my example bid package. Here's the specs for the job. Here's my general message. You only get one chance to create this message, and then you have to create a new one. So I found that out the hard way. I was messing around with this today and I tried to edit this memo that went out to everybody and I couldn't. So you do get the chance that this is how the email comes across, and they're going to get a link to participate. And what that link to participate is, it would come in here to say, I can submit my bid to you through Sage Construction Management, which does a lot of cool stuff. So when a vendor submits a bid through Sage Construction Management on an invitation to bid, what it does is it adds to your estimate. So if you had a concrete, vendor that you invited to bid, and they bid $100,000 for their portion of the work, it would add it to your estimate, which is pretty amazing. So you don't have to go out there and figure out who's the lowest bidder and all of that. So it kind of does that for you. So on the invitation to bid, you have the overview, which just kind of gives you some stats. There's 13 vendors. There's no general messages yet. There's no vendor messages, etc. Here's our bid package and specifications. You can see, of the vendors chosen, do they have current insurance? That's always important. What's the invitation status? Was it emailed or not emailed? And this vendor team link is the link that they get to respond to you. So they get a link, like I said, to submit their bid into your portal under this lead, which is really cool. And then you could see who responded and who didn't. So it just kind of gives you a quick dashboard for that. If I go back to lead home, I'm going to pop into the estimate. Estimating is incredibly important. And like I said earlier, garbage in, garbage out. If you do not have a good estimate, which becomes your project budget, then all of your reports are going to be illegitimate. They aren't going to make sense because you have to have something to base your, how much money you're making on a project, how you're doing against a project, what's your revenue recognition. You have to have that basis, and this estimate becomes that basis. So I'm going to click in here real quick, and I'm going to go to view estimate. And I like to think of this again as a filing cabinet, and I have all these drawers up top here. So these are all my cost codes I'm going to have. I'm going to jump to my estimate summary here real quick. And here it just kind of tells you combined sell and cost total. So you'll be able to see by cost type how this bid is put together. By materials, labor, equipment. So we have nothing in materials. Labor is going to be this at cost. Equipment's going to be at cost. These look like they're all at cost. So this isn't a very good estimate, in my opinion, because we need to have some selling amount in there. They should be different. Oh, here's your cost breakdown. So this labor is different than this labor. I'm not sure why that's not showing up here at top, but it should. So you can see here that, it's just kind of a dashboard for your estimate. And then you could print a proposal that could be emailed directly to the client, or however they have you submit bids. So this is what it looks like. This can be customized for you. So this is an estimate proposal with a schedule of values. And then you'll have some, little bit of terms and conditions at the bottom, just depending on how your customer needs to see that proposal. And that, again, that can be customized to you. And you could email that right out of the system. So we have these group formats and these templates. So these templates can be customized. And if you want to, email it out of the system, you can certainly do that. And then it would track it against that lead. It would say, this bid was sent to this owner on this day by this person. So you are in control of that. You can even attach your drawings, your specifications, all of that in the estimate. And again, the estimate is so important because it becomes the job's budget. So when you convert an estimate, we're going to go back to lead home and lead list. And so you'll see we have just a few leads here, and we were clicked down into the Fremont warehouse. So if we go to all leads here, we'll be able to see those kind of stats here. Now, if it does become a project, when you come over to the projects, you are able to convert a lead to a project, which is invaluable, right? Because you've done that estimate, you've picked all your vendors, you've picked all your crew, you know exactly what you want on that lead. You could easily convert it into a project from a lead. I'm not going to do that today, because it takes some questioning, right? Like you got to fill out some more information. So we're going to pick on this Prime Mart in Wilsonville. And you'll notice this kind of looks the same, right? Like it's a filing cabinet with some drawers. But you'll notice that our project menu is much more expansive. So we not only have general information project library, we also have project team that is assigned. We could see our estimate that was done on this project, easily done. You can have more than one estimate if you'd like. Client contract administration. So this is important to understand. This is the prime side. So this is all your prime contracts, all your allowance packages, change proposal requests, change orders, prime invoices. And then you also have the ability to do percent complete projections in here based on every project. So, and all of this information does get synced up with Intact. So if you do a prime invoice over here, for example, we can start with that. And we're just going to take a peek at this prime invoice. And let me go to view details. This is what our prime invoice looked like when we sent it to the owner. So, we would fill out what we want to bill this month, either based on actual cost, or we could base it on percentage as well. And then this is what it ends up looking like going to the customer. And again, you could email this right out of the system to the customer, and that way it would track, and you don't have to go back to that project manager and go, did you email that invoice? Now, some companies, a lot of owners actually use Procore now, and they will require you to put your own invoices in, but you could prepare them in here pretty easily and then submit them in that way. So this is just a standard progress billing with a schedule of values, previous billings, current billings, all of that information. This can also be customized to, suit your needs, however you want that to look. So coming back to our invoice, and you would be able to know if this was paid or not. So if we go back to contract admin, And I'm sorry, let's go back to projects and project list. And we're going to go back to our prime invoices. We would be able to see the payment information in here if it had been paid from Sage Intact and, we've received the money over there, it would relate back to this and tell us that it has been paid. So these go through an approval process also, which is attractive because so many times we're like, well, the project manager kind of does their thing, but then accounting always does their thing on top of the project manager. And then usually accounting is the one that sends out the bills. That's pretty common. So if that is your scenario, that you could easily, send it through an approval process based on whatever needs that you have. And then that would get, sent to accounting, for example, they would approve it, and then it could be sent out to the owner. So with this contract admin, you have an overview for this project. And so you can see we have approved. So in every stats that you're going to look at, you're going to have approved, pending, other, total, and then you'll have some other attributes that you're keeping track of. So if you wanted to look at a job and say, these are our contracts, these are our prime invoices, I have 2 approved, I have 1 pending. So if you wanted to come to this view, you certainly could to, kind of manage your contract administration. And then we have a full procurement module. And so this procurement module does RFPs that you need to, request for proposals from vendors. You can do purchase orders, subcontracts, subcontractor change orders. You can also receive bills through here. So there's a couple ways to do that. If we go into the bills section, you'll see all of these bills, and they do have an approval status. So that means that they have an approval routing process. So if you want your project manager to approve all the bills that say an AP person has put in, that's easy to do inside of here, and you could route them and get them approved and make sure that they're going to the right cost code and the right due dates and all of that information. So these bills can come in a variety of ways. And so you can get under this vendor hub, I'm not going to click there, but you can get a vendor link. And what that means is you can send a link to a vendor and say, this is your link for submitting your own bills. And they could submit their own bills against their own subcontracts. So it is secure. They only get access to what they're supposed to have access to, their vendor record with all their subcontracts. And so if they're savvy enough to do that, Procore is becoming more popular with that. And so many companies that use Procore also use that functionality in Procore. So the same is true here. You could get a vendor link and they can upload their own AP bills against their own subcontracts and purchase orders. So and the other way is that if you wanted to just, add a bunch of bills, you're like, I just need to add a bunch of bills. If you go into the bills, you can add it by hand. So you could just, what does this go against? Now here, it's not billing against a purchase order or subcontract. This is just a bill I got to get out or in. And you could import this. So you could bring in a PDF of this and dump it in here, and then it would read what it could using OCR technology, and then it would fill out what it knew. So you can do bills that way also. You can also just add a bunch of bills. So if I go into the vendor hub here, for example, and I say create bills from PDF or image. So you can drag and drop as many bills as you want to in here, and then you're going to process them. So if I say convert this one that I've already imported, it doesn't know what project or prime contract it goes against, and there is nowhere in here to put a subcontract or a change or a purchase order. That's done through a little bit different of a screen because you're attaching to a table. And then,
Steve,
yeah,
could we break to answer a couple of questions?
sure. Yeah, that's
First
fine.
question is the billing form AIA G702?
Oh,
And
okay.
are there multiple formats for invoices that are client specific?
Great question. And I always like to say this, that Sage does not have a contract with the AIA. So we can't call this a G702 or 703, but it's very similar, right? We don't have that verbiage down here that says this is an AIA certified document because that only comes from the AIA. Like you have to have a subscription to their services to use that format. So if you do have a subscription to them and you could customize this to be similar to the G702 and 703, you could put that verbiage there if it's necessary. But typically, like I said, Sage doesn't have an agreement with them, so we can't use that particular verbiage, but it does replicate basically a G702 and 703. Good question. And then the other answer was, is there other kinds of billing formats? Absolutely. There's a lot of different kinds of, and this could be customized as well. Sorry, let's go back to my projects here. And if I go back into this one, and if you look at the prime invoices and say we were going to print this one, there are a couple different templates already in here. So we've got items summarized by job code, job cost code. So we do have some formats there. And then what kind of template do we want to use? So maybe this simple template would be actually like a quick time and materials billing, because you're always going to have a contract though that you're going to bill against, even if it's simplistic. So this will take just a minute, but you're always going to have a contract. You have to have a contract to actually get it to sync up with Intact also, because it wants a contract. So that is kind of an interesting topic, because if you don't know that contract information right off the bat, but you want that job in Intact so people can charge time against it, so people can transact against it, then you will have to create a contract, even if it's for a dollar amount, just $1, and get it to sync up to Intact. So that is kind of a unique feature, and it's taking longer than I wanted to.
And another question came in. Are
Mhm.
there costs to subcontractors for submitting their bills? And does
Great
it
question.
show items by schedule of values detail?
Awesome question. Yes. The answer is they do not get a charge for submitting those bills. They're just part of the vendor hub. And I'm actually going to stop this. They're part of the vendor hub. They don't get charged for that. It's your account, and you can have as many different vendors on here that you want. They don't get charged for that. And so when they go to submit their invoices, now I have never I've never been on that other side where I've had to submit my bills. I've only seen it. So when they log in, they're going to see this vendor hub, and they're going to be able to see, they're going to be able to see this link. So they're going to be able to add this against a subcontract. So if they go into a subcontract, for example, they're only going to see their stuff. And I'm not exactly sure what it looks like on the other side of this, but they're going to add a bill against their schedule of values. So this is their schedule of values right here. And they're going to add a bill against this. So they're going to say, I'm billing this much. They're not going to, they can upload a PDF if they want, but they're going to fill out a field that says, how much are you billing this month against these line items? So I don't know if you've ever experienced that with Procore. It works much the same way. Good questions. Awesome. Anything else?
Nope. Thank you for answering those.
No problem. So coming back to our project real quick here, and gotta keep track of time. You'll notice that we have a full procurement module. We also have time and expenses. And so I want to reiterate, again, this has nothing to do with payroll. It has to do with just tracking time. They could use Sage Construction Management, and how that benefits you, because if you are doing time and materials billing, you can mark products as billable. So those could get to a owner billing. And then labor time cards, you can also mark those as billable. So this is a labor time card, and kind of what it looks like. Again, you could set this up in a multitude of ways. They can clock in and out from their phone. They can do crew time cards, however you want to manage that. But they're going to fill out a little bit of information. They're going to say, is it billable or not? How many hours they work today. But you'll notice that cost and bill rates are over here. And again, this has nothing to do with payroll, but it's a way to track cost against an employee. And the same thing is true with actually equipment. So you can have a base cost, burden cost, total cost, and then a billable rate. So you could use that information to then bill a client, for example, to say, this employee worked this many hours on this job at $37.26, and the total was $149 for the billable amount. So they can do time cards in here. They can also do equipment time cards, much the same way if you want to bill a piece of equipment to a project. Now, it doesn't do anything financial, so it's not going to go in the background, do your job cost allocation, nothing like that, because that financial information is kept in Sage Intact. It's not here. And they can also do miscellaneous expense reports. So if you want to do a miscellaneous expense report, you certainly could. And you can't reimburse them through here. However, it does get integrated into Intact, and you can pay them out of Intact. We have correspondence, so we've got issues, journals, RFIs. I'm going to pop into an RFI real quick so you can just kind of see what that looks like. And so it's really like understanding what these fields mean, what these fields mean, and then filling them out appropriately. So this one is update the storage specs for the interior shelving. So I went ahead, and you could email it right out of here, and it would track that. It would say, oh, when did you email this last? And who did you email it to? Did they respond? And so you have to come back in here, and they can't respond themselves to an RFI. Actually, I think they can, now that I think about that. They get a link too. So they can come into your system and respond to your RFIs or submittals if you want them to. But if you were going to print this and email it out, this is what it looks like. So this is just a simple RFI form. You can customize this however you need to. I just wanted to show you what that looked like. And then I'm going to go back to Project Home. And there's journals, submittals, transmittals, much in the same way. You can look at the correspondence overview for each project. And then we have photos, daily logs, meetings, and work orders. I'm going to click on daily logs because I know this is a big one for companies. And so you can actually have a vendor clock in and out on a project. And what that would do is help you with your daily field reports to go, which vendors were on site that day? You know, they could get a vendor hub link and be able to log their own time against that job. And that would help you, you know, with your daily field reports. These can be done on the mobile app. They're pretty savvy. Like if you take a picture with your phone and you want to attach it to this, you could do that through the mobile app pretty easily on your phone or a tablet. And that would show up under linked files if you had any pictures or anything of it. So then you have a permanent record of the daily logs against this job, and you would be able to, you know, run a report or print them out. Or I often have used daily field reports to reconcile against subcontractor invoices to make sure that they weren't on site for, you know, they recorded themselves on site more than what the bill was for, or vice versa. So it's a great way to reconcile your sub invoices, you know, just looking at daily field reports, as I call them. They call them daily. Yeah, they call them daily reports here, but I call them daily field reports. You have meetings, you also have work orders. So if it's just like a one-off kind of contract thing, we just need to go fix something, we're not adding it to the contract, but we need a work order, you could do a work order in here. And then finally, we have quality control and safety. Not finally, we have scheduling too, but QC and safety. One of the more popular things is obviously a punch list item. And so the punch list, you know, as you get towards the end of a job is really important, and you need to keep track of these items. So on this punch list item, we have two different punch list items here. We have fix the leak in the janitor's closet, and then fix the corner of the northwest side of the building. So then you can edit these to say, okay, is it current now? Are we good? What was the inspection date? What was the description of it? And is it closed? So you can track those punch list items in here as well using this quality control and safety functionality. We also have safety meetings, safety incidents. And again, I like to think of this as a filing cabinet underneath a job, right? So you're pulling out a punch list item drawer, and it has all these punch list items. And then safety incidents could be the same way. So nobody wants safety incidents, but they happen. But all of these things, the more effort you put into this reporting, the better you're going to know about your company. So you can start to spot trends, you can start to spot issues before they happen, so you can be proactive instead of reactive. and just better manage your projects. So you always know what's going on, but it does depend on how much information and effort you're putting into the system as well. It's not magical. It doesn't do anything by itself. You actually have to put effort into it, just as a note. And then finally, we do have schedules. I know I'm going fast. We have a lot to cover today in a short amount of time. The schedules are, really meant for like resource management, I will say. So I'm just gonna click on this active project schedules. And this is gonna pull up. Now, this isn't very, ooh, wow, it's not like that, because there isn't a schedule built in here. But it does use like a scheduling functionality of, oh, I put this subcontractor in, so it can use predecessors. So it will, track this subcontractor is already aligned with another project until the end of the month. You can't use them on this job. And so you just have to build out these schedules. And in the sample environment, it's not a really good example, but you can get the point here that this is it could be like your schedule of values, and each one is assigned to a vendor, and then that time frame. So you could use it in a multitude of ways. This is all active projects, which is probably a bad example. But if we go back to schedules here, and I wanted actually, I don't think I'm in a project. That's what maybe the problem is. But anyways, it does have schedules. I just want you to say that. So yeah. So you can also have a schedule of just general and project to-dos. So you can see the project to-dos here, and you can get alerts to say, hey, you got to do this thing. It's due today. So it's all about better project management and how you're, transacting in the system. But again, the more effort that you put into it, the better off your reporting is going to be always. That's true with any system that we ever had. Any questions before I jump back to PowerPoint and close us out?
Questions?
I know that was a lot. I felt like a auctioneer talking as fast as I could. Okay, so we have our very last poll question, and Dawn, if you'll want to pull that up.
Yes, so today we've learned a lot about Sage construction management, and the next step would be to learn more about you. And if you've seen things today that you think would benefit your business, what we'd like to do is to set up a lunch and learn all about you. And you could invite key team members to this virtual event. LBMC Tech would make sure that it got catered, and we could have a really specific discussion about the needs of your organization, what your timetable is like, and and how good of a fit Sage Construction Management would be. So if you're interested, please let us know here and we'll get in touch with you. This is the final poll question, so please answer. If you are here for CPE credit, I wouldn't want to have you miss out on that. So I'm going to give it a few more seconds.
Sure. And I'll just talk about our call to action. Thank you again for joining our webinar. And if you have any questions, here's my contact information. Here's Eddie Finley's contact information. He's our sales manager. I'm so happy to talk to you, judgment-free zone. There's no silly questions. I'm just happy to meet new people and help where I can. So, and lastly, we have some great webinars coming up. I'm very excited about the 21 days to a new you. So that is 21 short videos to, really show you around in Sage Intacct construction. And, they say it takes 21 days to make or break a habit. And so that's why we kind of did this in the new year. So that's starting January 2nd. Very excited about that. And then we do have one in January called on-premise versus cloud. So we'll be talking all about, like Sage 300 CRE, are you hosting it on someone else's server or your own server? And how Intacct can really, make you more efficient and productive. So awesome.
And we will include links to those in our follow-up email.
Awesome.
Not, excuse me, not to the 21 days to a new you, because that one will be launching live, but I will have a link for registration for on-premise versus cloud.
Amazing. Any more
Well,
questions?
No, no more questions. Misty, thank you so much for taking us through Sage Construction Management today. A lot to learn, just a very feature-rich product, and you really have a mastery of it. Thank you
Hmm.
so much to our audience. We really appreciate you carving out an hour of your day, and we hope to see you at a future event. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.